Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Unlocking Value with the Power of Connected Field Services. My name is Miguel Morales and I am your host for today's session. I'm going to go through a few housekeeping items real quick. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent background noise. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A tab. We'll answer them at the end of the session. I'd also encourage you to use the chat feature on the right-hand side of your screen to engage with us, panelists, and the participants, and be sure to review the Documents tab, also on the right, where you can find some additional goodies. That's the housekeeping, so on to the good stuff and the reason you're here. Bringing value to field service is something I'm pretty passionate about as the head of commercial IoT in the Americas here at Cumulocity IoT. I've been in the IoT and connected embedded space a long time, and I think that field service is probably it's one of the clearest paths to ROI when you talk about connected product value propositions, whether that's on the smart equipment manufacturer side or on the operator side. And I thought that for this part of the series, rather than us talking about it, we would invite somebody that does it day in and day out. So I am very pleased to welcome Alan King to the discussion, CEO and founder of one of our field service software partners in the Cumulocity ecosystem. So Alan, welcome. Can you say a little about yourself and about Dusk Mobile?
Hey, Miguel, thank you so much for welcoming me on board today. So yeah, Alan King, founder and CEO of Dusk Mobile. We're Australian headquartered in Melbourne, and we've got a diverse customer base across multiple industries. So our solutions are designed to accommodate the unique needs of businesses with distributed workforces that range from small teams to large enterprises, ensuring they can maximize productivity and reduce operational costs. So we transform customers' operational capabilities with innovative, user-friendly technology, which is designed for the modern workforce. And as Miguel mentioned, we're a Cumulocity partner. We love working with the team, and today we'll be discussing how your teams and organizations can unlock value with connected field services.
Awesome. So let's talk about how we're going to talk about it. First, the agenda, value streams. Actually, I'll go back to this slide for a sec. You may have seen this advertised as reducing the cost to serve. And I think there was a moment when it was increasing revenue. But at the end of the day, we settled on value because in field service, there is opportunity for both. And I think that's one of the reasons it's so rich with opportunity for returns is in some cases, we're talking about efficiency gains. And in some cases, we're talking about outright opportunities for more dollars. So we'll talk about both. You know, I want to interview Alan to understand when he approaches a new conversation with somebody, you know, how does he start the discussion around value? We'll hit that. We'll hit the additional revenue opportunities that emerge when you have a connected field service deployed. We'll do a real world case study or a scenario where value is where the opportunity to create value, and then talk about the Cumulocity and Dusk Mobile partnership collaboration. So that's the plan. Sound good, Alan?
Perfect. Hit the nail on the head.
All right. So I think we put this together as a bit of a joke and a handout to spur conversation at a field service conference some time ago, and it just sort of speaks to the problem in the industry. You know, like how many of the customers that you talk to are still, you know, you have a paper process for how they tackle a machine that isn't performing as expected, or that are revisiting the same machine for the second or for the third time. How common is this?
This is more common than most people would realize, and this type of setup is something that many businesses are using still today, and it works to a point. But as we'll uncover through this webinar today, there is so much more to be gained from moving beyond a paper-based field worksheet. So yeah,
Yeah.
this is absolutely prevalent out there, even in 2024.
Yeah, it's amazing to me. I mean, mentioned this in another seminar, but we just talk about how many companies even have a connected product strategy, never mind a digitalized field service strategy. Only 65% of companies have a connected product strategy. That does mean that it's in the majority, but I was surprised that 35% don't. I would imagine the statistics on field service is somewhere similar, but
Yeah.
a good friend, now a good friend, and actually co-presenter in the field service webinar series. I saw him present at a field service conference a couple months back, and he presented this chart, which has stuck with me when I think about creating value in field service. It was like the escalation path for solving a problem if you're an operator in the field, right? You got a piece of equipment. Ideally, you've done preventative maintenance, or the supplier has helped you deliver preventative maintenance so nothing's broken. Something happens, so you try to fix it yourself. You may call the supplier for help or dispatch somebody to come, look at it. And ideally, it's a first time fix, but sometimes continues to escalate. So that's that red line of sort of escalating in cost and complexity to service our equipment. I think the name of the game for connected field services is the blue line. Like, how do we push down and to the left, right? To either within any one of these events, do it more efficiently, but ideally, avoid the need for a revisit by improving our first time fix, or be able to remotely, diagnose and fix the problem without having to dispatch somebody in the field. I think that's the greater scope of opportunity that I see. But when you approach a conversation, I liked how you framed the value streams. So can you talk to us about where you start and where you see it building?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, realistically, this image here it's very powerful, because ultimately, when we're going to talk to a new opportunity, they're somewhere around the revisit stage. If we think back to the manual, the paper process that they've got, it's there's no opportunity there for things like data, basically, to be learned from, etc. So as we talk through these different stages, what we'll be considering is basically we want to move from the top right to the bottom left. That's the nirvana. And then equally with the colored blocks there on the right, we're looking to move from digitalization down through technician utilization and into asset utilization. So let's jump into those and have a quick look through them. So digitalization, it's easy to see 30% efficiency gains. That's literally off the block by putting.
So you're talking about going from the paper process to just a digital process of entry for like work order management and like that. That's what digitalization.
Yeah, exactly right. And looking through a couple of these that are, we'll just sort of step through a few here, but putting these basic fundamental digital blocks in place to start with. And the 30% is so realistic to see. So you start looking at things like improved information quality. You start learning from data-driven insights, which is something that Cumulocity is so good at. And automating workflows. So even just connecting two systems, whether it's directly, middleware, etc., you're reducing the risk not only of data entry errors, but you're removing duplicate data entry. First time fix, thinking about things like customer satisfaction improvements, technician support and safety. How do you reduce the risk through things like hazard identification, perhaps follow-up work in real time? And then suddenly SLAs. This is a big gotcha for many field service organizations, is they're very much focused on things like the rewards for meeting those SLAs, but there's also penalties in many cases for not meeting them. So looking at these collectively, there's 30% there, and even down to things like real-time alerting. So how do you minimize the impact for your customers as well? And that's just in that first digitalization block.
Yeah, I like that. What sticks out to me is information quality, right?
Yeah.
So improving information quality leading to improved operations, having tremendous opportunity. What about the technician utilization? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so literally like right person, right job, right time. Now, I suppose many people in this area, they think about the sending maybe someone without the right skill set, maybe they don't have the right certifications, or they're not compliant in regulatory environments, etc. I think about sending someone who's underskilled to the job. That's the standout. But the equal problem in many cases, quite a consumer of revenue, for example, where there's a lot of leakage, is actually sending overskilled people. So you're thinking things like senior members of staff who in the field space are very highly qualified. And these staff are being sent to jobs in the field, for example, where perhaps someone of a sort of mid-tier or at the commencement of their career should perhaps be sent instead. So that from a cost perspective, that the right technician is being sent to the right job at the right time. So over time, with larger workforces, multiple examples of sending the wrong person to the wrong job, this impacts revenue significantly. And then you move into areas like truck rolls. So how do you benefit from things like optimized routes, sending the right equipment to the right site? That's a significant consumer of revenue if it's not done correctly. And then obviously the environmental impact of that as well. So you start sending the wrong vehicles, oversized vehicles to jobs where they're not needed. There's significant environmental impacts that can be resolved through things like optimized routes.
Interesting. So right person, right job, right time. It does seem like you have profit leakage if you're getting that wrong. So in a field service tool like this, presumably you're able to like categorize the people and then have some business logic for a given failure condition to trigger the planning or the assignment of the work order to the right skill set, is what you're saying?
Exactly right. And also in the right, you start then moving into areas around proximity. So how do you make sure that the person is geographically located to be of best use to that particular job? So there's multiple areas, and then looking at using the data that's being gleaned through that initial digitalization stage to start implementing optimization.
Nice. Now, asset utilization, you got the right information, the right people. What are the implications on the assets themselves?
So yeah, and we're still pushing down to that bottom left corner here, and this is where it sort of really gets into the nuts and bolts of the asset side of the field service piece. So we're looking at things like with your fixed assets, so proactive monitoring. How do you look at things like remote monitoring through tools such as Cumulocity? So using a product such as Cumulocity, there's the higher chance of anomaly detection, for example. So remedy before failure or downtime. Then improving the remaining useful life of the asset by leveraging those predictive maintenance tools. And avoiding unnecessary equipment replacement. So as we'll touch on shortly, it's also a problem to replace the equipment before it's needed. And then that finally leads to things like supply chain optimization and synchronization with the actual replacement event, which we'll unpack shortly.
Awesome. So you're saying the assets can live longer if you're maintaining them correctly, but then
and again, you've got that data underneath it to help with this,
and avoid replacing things that could have been there longer. That leads to happier customers, right? So let's talk about happier customers and increased revenue opportunities. We have a infographic on Cumulocity.com that I found, which I thought represented it was referencing the IoT maturity model, but we can talk about it as somewhat of a field service maturity model. So in the first step, just remote monitoring, remote update capabilities, offering up to 75% reduction in costs. There was a customer at our customer advisory board that talks about the millions of dollars that they save literally just not sending people with USB sticks to update devices. And it blew my mind, but it's been this huge contribution to their business and the ability to remotely update firmware. Interestingly, this shows 35% gains for smart field services, which is very closely linked to your intuition around the 30% gains. and performance management being that next step. So now you have good information, you're sending the right people, and the 200% increase in useful life of equipment, you're extending the life of the equipment. But this nirvana at the end is, we call it equipment as a service here, but generally, generalized way, connected field service sort of enables more innovative service models. What does that mean to you, innovative service models?
Yeah, and this is a great one, Miguel. So this goes well beyond field service as well now. So what we're starting to see is across customers, we're looking at the way they're innovating with as a service models, which we start to see in other areas of industry as well. But this is all about building that annuity revenue stream, that certainty, that predictability. And for customers who are considering getting into this space, packaging their offering into a monthly or an annual model, they could consider areas for revenue growth and benefits that might include things like consolidation of device maintenance and software support for that customer for an additional fee. So really getting close to that customer, understanding the costs of maintaining those assets, maintaining software patching, etc., and bundling that up as an off-the-shelf offering to go and take care of that for that customer as a turnkey offering. Then things like that leads to things like predictable revenue streams that are possible for your business. Resourcing teams is suddenly made much easier because there are known numbers of accounts to support. This is not very much a traditional reactive model. This is very much predictable revenue streams. And increasing revenue there suddenly becomes more possible. So looking at things like upselling and cross-selling of your offering. So add-ons could be as simple as a custom dashboard or two, maybe even additional integrations. And depending on how things are structured commercially, those in turn can be repurposed to your other customers. So really looking at those additional areas of value that you can add to your customers. And it deepens that engagement. So good examples here, regular touch points. Previously, sorry.
I was just thinking, like, if I buy something and I'm calling the company afterwards, it's often because, like, hey, it's not working. Like that's kind of a frustrating experience, right? You're talking about sort of switching that model to, we know that it's going to need maintenance. Our equipment is expensive or complex and mission critical. Instead of just calling me when it's broken, let's have a proactive and longer term relationship with regular touch points. So it's not break fix, it's not reactive. It's kind of a subscription based model where we're going to take care of your things. And now with those additional touch points, it sounds like you have a better relationship, better opportunities to upsell or customize or ultimately identify tangential opportunities or peripheral opportunities that you may not have that visibility before when they're calling you grumpy because the thing isn't working, right?
Exactly right. Yeah, and you just got that opportunity now just to really build a deep relationship and understand their business in much greater detail, and in turn offer significantly more value because you've got that relationship that's essentially changed from what is a very traditional, as you say, like it's a call when something's broken, maybe call if they want a new sale, or at best maybe a quarterly business review or a monthly account management meeting.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, quarterly business reviews is probably like the most reliable opportunity to have a positive conversation besides the break fix. This would flip that and ultimately drive customer loyalty. Customer loyalty is this. That's certainly in the camp of revenue growth. Lifetime value, if you are more competitive and they like your product and they like your services, they're going to ultimately buy more over time.
Exactly.
And if you were able to optimize your profitability in delivering those services, you've got money freed up that you can actually invest in many other growth strategies that could further increase your revenue. So it's exciting revenue opportunities. I was hoping that you could talk to us about this awesome AI generated picture in a real world use case.
Happy to. No, this is it's a great image here. So this is there's a good example here with Cumulocity customer, for example, where they've realised significant benefits with cleaning robots, and this was our take on these cleaning robots. So downtime in any industry is expensive, but this particular industry is tremendously expensive. And one of the challenges was, how do you prevent premature equipment replacement, or worse, replacing only after failure? So by using things like data-driven insights collected from within Cumulocity, it meant they could start looking at the useful life of the equipment and move to a predictive maintenance model. So to unpack that a bit further, that involved basically identifying tolerance thresholds and then replacing the equipment within that threshold. So a good example would be, let's say, the time to schedule in the replacement of the equipment, including shipping parts, maybe organising labour, scheduling that job in as well with the right people, the right skills, at the right time. It could be assessed that needs to commence at 90% of the useful life of that equipment. So for that threshold point, so you've got that final 10%, that's when all of the rest of the activity would take place. So part shipped, technician scheduled in, and it became very much a just-in-time model. This is still a constant iteration for improving this timeline, essentially. But this type of approach demonstrates how compliance with SLAs is increased and customer satisfaction scores are vastly improved over time.
That's awesome. I like how you're talking about a threshold of remaining useful life at which you have to have sufficient digitalization and understanding of lead times for the service as well as the parts that need to be sourced and manufactured to start the process, that much further in advance. Otherwise, It's like, I think I remember I had a couch delivered. I was like, hey, the leg is broken. They're like, okay, that's fine, sir. We're going to get you a new couch in 6 months.
Yeah.
Like, where am I going to sit? Right. I think the consequences in the manufacturing environment are significantly higher. So we want to drive, the robot on the right. We don't want the robot on the left.
Yeah, that's it. And those data-driven insights are just essentially what starts to be gathered as this right from the start of this journey, and it leads to this type of status at the as that maturity grows, the data increases, these type of things suddenly become possible.
Awesome. Thank you. So let's bring it home to Cumulocity. We've said Cumulocity, we said Dusk Mobile. Just want the opportunity to, for anybody who is new to the tools, to sort of get a glimpse. Cumulocity IoT itself is a product that makes it easy to get started with a connected product solution and reliable to scale to tens, hundreds, millions of units of connection without having to build all those back-end IoT services, analytics, compliance to GDPR standards, ISO standards, SOC 2, even SOC 3 standards. And so typically speaking, we see customers are able to achieve the connected products, twice as fast with half the number of people when they leverage IoT. In the world of build versus buy, Cumulocity is a buy and integrate product for IoT, and it is well recognized within the analyst community as one of the leading options for industrial IoT. We're in good company, of course, with our partners at Microsoft and AWS with their IoT solutions, and we have reference architectures for how we integrate together with those. How does that work together with Dusk Mobile?
Yeah, and it's when we look at our partnership with Cumulocity, it's one that we're incredibly proud of, and it's a natural extension of what we do as a business. So each product, as you've rightly said, Miguel, is really powerful on its own, but together there's an unprecedented level of value essentially by connecting the two together. So we're talking about simplifying workflows, enhancing operational efficiency, and supporting new revenue streams. And all of this helps boost customer service. So by combining them, we're empowering collective customers with a comprehensive tool set that is greater than the sum of the parts. And it sets a new standard for operational excellence and unlocking revenue growth.
Nice. I like that. I mean, we are, two different businesses, but that's the beauty of an ecosystem and a partnership, right?
Yeah,
There are, even independent of having the connected products, significant value that can be achieved with a field service tool like Dusk Mobile, and significant value that can be achieved with a tool like Cumulocity. When we integrate those and you make it connected field service, you really uh, have have the opportunity to progress further in the maturity to
yeah.
offer these higher levels of value.
Exactly right. No, that's you're spot on there, Miguel. It's an exciting partnership and one that we're super proud to work with the team at Cumulocity and yourself obviously as well with this.
That's great. Well, thank you. I know we only had 30 minutes today, but how do people get a hold of you?
Best way through the contact details out of the webinar. So yeah, visit our website, duskmobile.com. We're on all the social channels, LinkedIn, Facebook. YouTube has got a whole bunch on our product capability, including Cumulocity on there as well. And obviously using X platform as well, Twitter, we can be found on there.
I love it. Thank you so much, Alan, for your time today and for sharing some of your wisdom in the field.
You're most welcome, and thanks for the opportunity, Miguel. It's great to spend time with you again.
Awesome. Thanks, folks. I'm going to check the Q&A real quick. I think we're clear. Make sure to check out the docs link on to the right for referenceable material. And thank you for joining us today.